Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a truly pivotal moment in literary history. We are stepping right into the incredibly high-stakes world of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, specifically Act 4. So Rome is totally reeling right now. Caesar has just been assassinated, and the conspirators, who really thought they were saving the Republic, are now on the run from a ruthless new regime. It's basically a massive mental game of chess, completely filled with betrayal, guilt, and even ghosts.
Okay, let's set up a quick mental roadmap for today. We're going to hit all the crucial beats: the Second Triumvirate, Antony's dark side, a fractured friendship, the itching palm, tragedy and strategy, and finally, Caesar's ghost returns.
Starting right off with Section 1, the Second Triumvirate, and their deadly alliance.
So we transition away from the sheer chaos of Caesar's death into a scene that is just chillingly cold. The heroes who took Caesar down are fleeing, and this terrifying new power vacuum has been filled by the Second Triumvirate. That's a coalition of three men: Mark Antony, young Octavius, and Lepidus. And how exactly do we first meet them in this act? Well, they're literally sitting around a table with a piece of paper, casually marking down the names of people who must die. They're making a hit list. It is so utterly ruthless that Lepidus calmly agrees to let his own brother be executed, just as long as Antony agrees to kill his own nephew. Let that sink in. They are bartering with the lives of their own family members just to consolidate power.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive contrast between the two opposing sides of this incoming war. On one side, Antony and Octavius are terrifyingly united in their ruthlessness. They're even going so far as to alter Caesar's will to steal public funds for their armies. On the other side, as we're about to see, Brutus and Cassius's camp is completely fractured. They are losing money, losing focus, and arguing bitterly amongst themselves. It's a classic lesson in power dynamics, right? Nothing unites people faster than a shared enemy, and nothing divides them faster than a lack of money.
Moving right along to Section 2, Antony's dark side, the pragmatic politician.
If you thought Antony was just a loyal, grieving friend back in Act 3, Act 4 shows us a complete transformation. Unchecked power has turned him cold. He's now a purely pragmatic politician who views the people around him not as allies, but as expendable tools. Just look at this incredible everyday analogy he uses when Octavius tries to defend Lepidus as a valiant soldier. Antony says, "He shall but bear them as the ass bears gold." He is openly stating that he plans to use Lepidus like a donkey. They're going to load him up with the heavy burden of their political murders, let him do all the heavy lifting, and once the treasure is delivered, they'll take off the load and kick him out to graze. He's literally just a tool to take the blame.
Furthermore, Antony sends Lepidus to go fetch Caesar's will. And why? So they can alter it. He plans to cut the legacy, that's the money Caesar specifically promised to the citizens of Rome, so he can secretly funnel it right into building his own army. The shocking irony here is that Antony used this exact will to manipulate the Roman mob into a total frenzy in the previous act. Now, he's stealing that very same money to buy horses and weapons.
That brings us to Section 3, a fractured friendship and the famous tent scene.
We leave Rome behind and travel over to Brutus's military camp in Sardis, where the whole energy shifts from quiet calculations to just heated, raw emotion. Even before Cassius arrives, Brutus is sensing a really deep problem. He hears from his commander that Cassius has been acting overly polite and formal lately. Brutus immediately recognizes this massive red flag and says, "When love begins to sicken and decay, it youtheth an enforced ceremony." Because think about it, true, deep friendships don't rely on fake formalities, do they? When you're close to someone, you're authentic. When you start acting like a formal acquaintance, it means that genuine love and trust are actually decaying.
Section 4, the itching palm, diving into corruption and anger.
That decay completely explodes as Cassius marches into the camp furious. Brutus quickly drags him into his private tent so their armies don't see their generals screaming at each other. And once they're inside, the tension just boils over. Brutus ruthlessly accuses Cassius of having an itching palm. Now, this means a severe greed for money, specifically the habit of accepting bribes. Brutus is claiming Cassius has actually been selling high-ranking army positions for gold to men who absolutely don't deserve them, totally corrupting their military force. So the crucial point here is this incredibly deep ideological divide. Let's break down the core of this argument. Cassius is furious because Brutus publicly condemned a man named Lucius Pella for taking bribes and completely ignored Cassius's letters trying to defend the guy. But Brutus fires right back, reminding Cassius of the Ides of March. They assassinated a dictator for the sake of justice. Did they strike down the most powerful man in the world just to become common extortionists themselves? No way. To make matters even worse, Brutus is angry because he asked Cassius for gold to pay his soldiers since Brutus strictly refuses to extort peasants, and he firmly believes Cassius denied them that gold.
The argument reaches such a wild fever pitch that Cassius resorts to massive emotional manipulation. He literally bares his chest, hands Brutus his dagger, and tells him to carve out his heart. He cries out, "Strike, as thou didst at Caesar. When thou didst hate him worse, thou lovedst him better than ever thou lovedst Cassius." It's this extreme guilt trip designed to force Brutus to back down. It proves Cassius is way more interested in dramatic victories than actually addressing his own corruption. But it works. The sheer exhaustion of the fight causes Brutus's anger to finally just deflate.
On to Section 5, Tragedy and Strategy. Portia's Fate and the Road to Philippi.
The yelling stops, and Brutus reveals the devastating real reason his temper was so incredibly short during their argument. Now, Brutus is a famous practitioner of Stoicism, a philosophy that emphasizes intense self-control and hiding extreme emotions. But even Brutus has been pushed to his breaking point. He reveals to Cassius that his beloved wife, Portia, is dead. Driven to madness by his absence and the terrifying, growing power of Antony, Portia killed herself by swallowing burning coals. It is a horrific, heartbreaking realization that perfectly explains Brutus's completely frayed mental state.
Let's see how this builds, because the hits just keep on coming. Right after this massive emotional blow, letters arrive confirming the terrifying reality back in Rome. Whether it's 70 senators dead according to Brutus's letters or 100 according to Messala's, the result is exactly the same: absolute brutality. Even the great, seemingly untouchable Cicero has been executed by the triumvirate. Literally, nobody is safe. The war is truly upon them. Forced to act, Brutus makes a fatal strategic blunder. Cassius smartly suggests they stay put, rest up, and let Antony and Octavius exhaust their own resources marching to them. But Brutus insists they have to march directly to Philippi. His logic? Well, he fears Antony will recruit the angry locals between them who are only loyal to Brutus out of fear. Furthermore, Brutus believes their army is at its absolute peak right now. He uses the famous metaphor, "There is a tide in the affairs of men." He believes they have to catch the high tide right now or lose their chance at victory forever. Reluctantly, Cassius yields. And it's a stark reminder of how personal tragedy and exhaustion can totally cloud the judgment of even the most brilliant leaders.
Finally, Section 6, Caesar's Ghost returns, bringing us to the supernatural climax.
The meeting ends, the generals say their goodnights, and an eerie quiet falls over the tent. Paint this picture in your mind. It's the dead of night. Brutus, carrying the immense weight of a fractured army, his wife's horrific suicide, and an impending war, is just desperately trying to find a little comfort. He asks his servant boy to play a tune on the lute, but the boy falls asleep mid-song. Exhausted and totally lonely, Brutus sits down to read a book in the dim, flickering candlelight. Suddenly, the candle flickers wildly. Something enters the tent. Imagine what you would feel in that exact moment. Brutus initially tries to rationalize it, of course. He asks himself, is it just my weak eyes playing tricks on me in this bad lighting? Or is something monstrous, something deeply terrifying actually approaching me in the dark?
Well, it's no trick of the light. It is the ghost of Julius Caesar. Brutus demands to know what the creature is, and the ghost delivers a heavy-hitting, bone-chilling line. "Thy evil spirit, Brutus, to tell thee thou shalt see me at Philippi." The specter of the man Brutus murdered has returned, not to fight him right then and there, but to promise that his revenge at the battlefield of Philippi is absolutely inevitable. The ghost vanishes as quickly as it appeared. Brutus, in an absolute panic, wakes up his sleeping guards and his servant. He asks them if they cried out, if they saw anything in the tent, but they all just stare at him in total confusion. They saw nothing, they heard nothing. Brutus is completely isolated with his haunting vision, and this terrifying encounter only seals his desperate decision. He orders his men to wake Cassius and begin the march to Philippi immediately. Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought. With his friendship with Cassius totally fractured, a highly questionable strategic decision locked in, and the literal ghost of his victim promising to meet him on the battlefield, is Brutus really marching toward a glorious victory for the Republic, or is he marching directly into his own grave at Philippi? That tension is exactly what makes the transition into Act 5 so incredible to read. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.